And Senator Gillibrand joining me now. Good to see you.
Hi, how are you?
Doing well, thank you. So let's talk about it, right? Because you just heard from the mayor about a year into this migrant crisis, Senator. New York City estimates these 50,000 have been bused here from the border, right? And so the question here is, do you think the Biden administration, from what the mayor had to say last week, should actually step in and offer some of these federal dollars that he's saying have not arrived yet?
Well, we've been working very hard on the federal level to get resources to the mayor. We passed a bill that had $800 million specifically to deal with the migrant crisis. New York obviously has to vie for those funds with other states. But this crisis in New York was caused by governors, cynical governors in Texas and Florida, who just wanted to get political points and get on the news. And their cynical policies are really harming people. These are families that are suffering, that are seeking asylum, that have been traveling for sometimes days on end before they even get to New York, and then months on end before they even got to the border. So we are going to do everything in our power to get more resources for the mayor. And the mayor is doing everything he can to create some semblance of a process for people to get legal services, to be able to make their asylum claims and get life-saving care.
You know, you actually once, Senator, floated the idea of sending migrants upstate. Is that something that you would, I guess, still like to see happen? And if so, where would they go?
Well, my idea was for the mayor to reach out to other mayors around the state to ask them if they had capacity to take a few families. And I personally talked to several mayors who have said, yeah, we could take 5 families, 10 families, 15 families. That's probably not what the mayor would like in terms of numbers. But the truth is, we as New Yorkers have been so generous towards different asylum seekers, different refugee communities. If you go to a city like Buffalo, you'll see refugee communities from all over Asia, all over Africa. And those individuals have created business, have thrived, have rebuilt communities. In a lot of upstate towns, there's unused housing stock that is dilapidated. And so we work on trying to help families get into homes, to help renovate them, to help make sure that it's safe and welcoming. So there's just solutions up there that I think mayor to mayor, the mayor might be able to find some support. Not every mayor is going to be generous, but a lot of them are. And I've talked to many who say we can take 10 families. Because when you ask an upstate mayor, do you have capacity? They're going to look to not just shelters. They're going to look, what is our housing situation? What does the school system look like? How many slots do we have in our local public school? What are the ages of the kids? I visited some of these refugee centers around the state, and they provide, through generosity of the communities around them, they provide diapers, they provide clothing, they provide blankets, they provide bedding, they provide kitchenware, anything a family would need to get up and running and started. They don't have huge capacities, but they can take, dozens of families and get them the kids in school and get them housing. So it's a mayor to mayor thing that I hope that the mayor continues to work towards.
Understood. All right, I want to talk about this other big announcement you had last week about SNAP benefits, introducing this Closing the Meal Gap Act, right, which you say will permanently strengthen the program. So I guess, how would you do it? Where's the funding coming from? And do you believe you have enough support on the Republican side to get this passed? Because they've been kind of against SNAP for almost a decade.
Yeah, so we just had a hearing on SNAP benefits, and some of the testimony from the Republicans was pretty severe. Testimony saying that having food assistance somehow creates dependency. That's just not what the evidence shows. We had a witness, a woman from New York, who has accessed the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, as well as the nutrition program for women and infants. And it made the difference for her kids of getting fresh fruits and vegetables, of getting a little higher quality protein into their nutrition. And it matters because if kids go to school hungry, they can't learn. If people go to hungry work, they can't do their jobs well. And we are the richest country in the world. And there's no excuse for having families going hungry. Most of the SNAP program go to kids, they go to seniors, they go to veterans, active duty service members, because some of them get paid so little. These are communities that need our help, and we should be generous.
So are you confident, Senator, are you confident that you could get the Republican support to get that bill passed?
the whole point of the hearing was to make the case to our colleagues about why this works and why it's not something they should be concerned about cutting. It's easy to reduce benefits for working class people if they're not going to vote for you or not going to change your outcome of your election. It's very cynical. They're not their donors. They'll do everything and anything for their donors. But just helping people who need help should be the kind of bipartisan work that we do every day. And so I have not given up hope that we can make this bipartisan. Okay,
understood. We've been talking a lot, Senator, about UFOs this year in the wake of the Chinese spy balloon incident. A lot of people have started getting these conspiracy theories back in action, right? And this week you spoke at a rare open hearing on the Pentagon's so-called UFO office. Said the Biden administration isn't funding it enough, right? So given all the issues that I guess we're facing right now, inflation, crime, abortion rights in this country, gun rights, why do you think that researching UFOs is such a priority right now?
Well, unidentified aerial phenomena is what we call it because it's a broader term. It's not always a flying object. So aerial phenomenon. And we need, for our national security, domain awareness so that our pilots, when they're flying missions, don't run into things like balloons or drones or other aircraft. And second, we need to have air superiority from conflict, and we need to make sure our adversaries aren't spying on us and not only stealing our data and stealing our secrets, but getting intelligence that would help them know how to defeat America in any future conflict. So we need to know this information, and the spy balloon was a perfect example. To have a Chinese spy balloon flying over bases doing intelligence gathering is unacceptable. And we set up this office 2 years ago. I and Senator Warner and Senator Rubio and others, and we created an office to review all unidentified aerial phenomena, assess what it is, and then make sure it's addressed appropriately. They've looked at over 600 unidentified aerial phenomenon to date. In the group that they looked at before the end of the year, about 150 or so were balloons or orb-like devices. About 24 were drone-like devices, and then a handful were birds and debris.
So this was more about surveillance and security than talk about, I don't know, X-Files and aliens.
Yeah, it's not about X-Files. It's about domain awareness and national security.
Understood, yeah.
But interestingly, there was still 171 last year that they couldn't figure out what it was. So we need to know, regardless. We need to know if it's an adversary, China, Russia, Iran. We need to know if it's technology we don't have yet. We just need to know.
Understood.
And even if it's just a science project, we need to know, because it's important that we know the difference between something that's harmful and something that's not.
All right.
And that's what SOS is going to do. And they're going to protect our pilots in the process.
All right. Good information there. But do you believe? I'm just kidding. We'll talk about this another time. Senator Gillibrand.
Who knows?
I know. Thank you for being here. Appreciate your time.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay.